Hi everyone, welcome back to Mental Training Thursday. My name is Dr. Mac Brown. I'm the Assistant Director and Training Coordinator at Psychological Health and Performance.
Hi everybody, I am Dr. Rachel Walker. I'm the Director of Psychological Health and Performance. And this week's topic is mindful awareness. Before we get into that, we are going to answer a question that was submitted to us about last week's topic.
Hi, my name is Chris Thomas. I'm our Clinical Data and Administrative Specialist. And here's a question this week related to the content we posted on our website. And we'll start off with Mac answering first. And then, so the question, I went to the website and listened to the Leaves on a Stream exercise, which I found helpful. I would like to learn more about its application in life and in sport.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's definitely something that we wanted to have happen where you could access that Leaves on a Stream training so that you could take the time to really delve into it. And one of the things that a training like that is helpful for, whether it's around life or in sport, is it's helping allow you to take note and be aware of thoughts that are present as well as feelings that are present and noticing that they're there. It's really helpful in both contexts, life or sport, when you're aware of what's on your mind and what's there, and being able to not only train your brain to notice it, but then to also be able to let it go so that you're not getting tripped up or caught up in it if it's not a productive or helpful time to be engaging in whatever those thoughts or feelings are. So in order to use it in life, it's really just about training that muscle in your brain, if you will, around the recognition of what's present. Rachel, what other thoughts did you have?
I would just add, so when I think about the purpose of the exercise, creating a little bit of space with those thoughts. It's not about getting rid of the thoughts and feelings. It's about just noticing and learning to let go. And by doing that, we're building this mental muscle, right? The noticing mental muscle that on the field or the court, it's going to help you in your sport if you practice it outside of sport to then refocus on things instantly in your sport that are helpful. The other piece to it is the exercise has many different functions. So I mentioned creating the space so that you can refocus. The other piece is that acceptance piece. And acceptance doesn't mean agreement. So I think that that's an important key there, because as humans and as athletes, we're very good at avoiding the uncomfortable. So if it's uncomfortable thought, uncomfortable feeling, we're really good at just kind of pushing that away. But the more that we can create some space for it and accept that we're going to have those thoughts, we're going to have those feelings, but learning to create a little bit of space through that exercise allows you to accept it and let go. The other piece to it is it's mindfulness training. So it's a nice segue into this week's topic on mindful awareness. And then I would also say in training your brain with the Leaves on the Stream exercise, it works on your imagery skill, your visualization. And so although you're visualizing and imagining a stream, you're building that mental skill for when you might do some imagery or visualization for your sport.
That's an excellent added point, especially because I'm sure a lot of athletes are thinking about how can they continue to practice and train even though we can't be practicing and training, and here's another way to do it. So if you do have other questions, feel free to send us a message. You can email me at mac.brown@colorado.edu and we'll answer any questions in the beginning of our first talk. So today, kind of bridging the gap with what Rachel was just saying, in the last 2 weeks, we talked about accepting the minds as well as the self-talk that can be present. And so today is really about really focusing in on what's present in our mind and increasing that awareness through the practice of mindful awareness. That's something that we can do so that we can stay more tuned into aspects of both our internal and external worlds through this practice. So Rachel's going to talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll move into an activity and exercise that you can use.
Yeah, so just to start, before we jump into the exercise, it's always helpful to have a definition. So mindfulness is a term that's kind of thrown out there, and often we don't really know exactly what it means. So when we talk about mindfulness, what we're really talking about is paying attention. And it's paying attention without judgment, paying attention non-judgmentally to what's happening right now in this moment, internally and externally. So when I think about internally, that's those sensations, the feelings that you have, both physiologically and emotionally, the thoughts that might be going on in your mind. And then externally is about paying attention to your environment, maybe some physical cues that might be going on in your environment, in your sport. I think the key there is paying attention non-judgmentally. So it's not just what you're paying attention to, it's how you're paying attention to it. Because as humans, we're judging machines. And so I think it's really important to notice when you're getting caught up in that part of your mind, because we all do it. And at the same time, it's not so helpful. So building, like I mentioned earlier, building that noticing muscle and just, oh, I notice, and then refocus on what would be helpful. So the other piece that you might be thinking about outside of once now that we have that definition down, I think you may be asking yourself, well, why mindfulness training? And there are two things in particular that I want to highlight as far as with regards to the importance of mindfulness training. So when you think about being in the zone or flow state in your sport, flow state's often described, or being in the zone often described as like performing as well as you've ever performed before. If you think back to some of your best performances that you've had, athletes often describe things just come easily. I'm confident. I feel like I'm in control. You know, if something doesn't go according to plan, it's not a big deal, kind of just roll off my back. I refocus. Athletes also describe it as having fun, and that everything outside of the sport venue or what you're really honed in on is blurry. So that's why the term being in the zone, right? Like you're in the zone. Well, decades of research on flow state have identified 3 key factors that are associated with it. And they are present moment attention, a sense of self-control, and a loss of self-consciousness. Now, the neat thing about that is that these 3 factors of flow are also associated with mindfulness training. So in other words, if we can train our minds to notice and refocus, notice and let go, and refocus on the present moment, the more mindfulness training we do like that, that's going to increase the athlete's chances of achieving flow state. And what we know about flow state or being in the zone is that that's going to increase your performance. So bottom line there is we're going to introduce more and more mindfulness training. The other piece to why mindfulness, outside of performance, when we think about mental health, 2 of the most identified mental health concerns in the college age student is depression and anxiety. Okay, so let's take a look at those for a second. When you think about depression, typically words that come to mind that describe depression that athletes have identified are sadness, maybe feeling overwhelmed, a loss of interest in things that maybe you were once interested in, decrease in motivation, difficult concentrating, things like that. And when I ask athletes where typically, if a person is depressed, where are their thoughts, past, present, or future? Well, typically they're in the past. It's usually thinking about something that happened, maybe something that your mind has convinced you that you did wrong, you did poorly, and that can contribute to some self-doubt. So you're kind of stuck and hooked on these thoughts that are associated in the past. Now, when we take a look at anxiety, often athletes will identify words associated with anxiety like worry, heart racing, those internal physiological experiences, sweaty palms, kind of difficulty concentrating, feeling overwhelmed, lots of thoughts going on in their head. And then when I ask them, and tension, lots of tension, tightness of chest, things like that. When I ask them, well, typically where might somebody who's feeling anxious have their thoughts? Like, where are their thoughts, past, present, or future? Well, they usually identify future with anxiety. And a lot of that comes from getting caught up in what if and the uncertainties. So we can tie that back to COVID right now, right? There's a lot of uncertainty going on. So it wouldn't be surprising if you were feeling a little nervous, if you're feeling some heightened anxiety, and just being able to notice that. So when I walk you through depression and anxiety, just a snippet of them, you'll notice that the thoughts typically are with depression either in the past or with anxiety in the future. What's missing is the present in both of those. And with mindfulness training, research has shown that it can actually decrease symptoms of depression and anxiety. And with continued practice, it can actually decrease your risk of even experiencing depressive symptoms or anxious symptoms. And so not only does it help you with your performance and being able to refocus to the present moment, but it's also about working with your mental health and improving that.
So as Rachel pointed out, being that sometimes we can get stuck in the past or we can get stuck in the future, the exercise that we're going to teach you today is diaphragmatic breathing, that you can use your breath as a way to anchor you in the present moment. It's also going to help increase oxygen to your muscles, and it will help give you a feeling of relaxation as well. So we're going to actually run you through that right now. So to start, just begin sitting up tall, plant your feet firmly on the ground, and imagine that your vertebrae are stacking one on top of the other all the way up your spine, and your head is resting comfortably on top of your shoulders. And whatever feels comfortable, you can close your eyes if you'd like, or if you prefer, you can leave them open and just slightly gazing down and just focusing on a spot a few feet in front of you. Many of us can develop a habit of breathing just into our chest and tightening or constricting our abdomen as we're moving through the busy days of our lives. So it might take a few moments just to kind of settle in and find a comfortable rhythm of breathing deep into your belly. So one way you can also check in is if you put a hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach, you can feel where your breathing is going into. So just allow the muscles of your abdomen to relax and let your stomach expand and deflate as you breathe into your belly. Again, noticing what's happening with where your hands are at on your chest and on your belly. Feeling the rise and fall with the rhythm of your breathing. And see if you can intentionally take in more air with each breath, as if you're trying to fill a balloon in your stomach. Notice any changes in your breathing into your belly. You can leave your hand on your belly as long as you'd like, or when you feel at ease, maintaining that gentle awareness of breath traveling down into your belly. And just give that a moment to feel and notice that rhythm of breathing. Now, take one more deep, full inhalation. And then imagine that your belly button is trying to reach all the way back to your spine as you're slowly and completely exhaling. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return your attention and your focus to the world around you.
And with that, we'll close out for today. Thank you for joining us. Next week's topic is understanding grief and loss. And we will close out with a quote. Mindfulness is a way of befriending ourselves and our experiences. And that's by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's a guru in mindfulness. Thank you.